CCTV camera access for parents.
Maybe if you tell me, I'll go one floor above. Also.
Take on like a zero homework policy for primary classes as well.
No, I don't agree with this. It's difficult to bracket the relationship or define it in one particular thing because this relationship takes its turns and it changes hats every time. Sometimes it's sounding board, we are sounding board for each other.
Welcome to Caprics Talk Show. Welcome to Caprics Talk Show, where we connect with visionaries who redefine education. Today for the talk show, we have Shri Vikas Surana sir, the founder of Vidhya Sagar Institutions. He as such, as a leader and an educator, has traveled across globally to learn or like bring new age learning to the institutions. And as well as he comes from an institution which is built on a legacy of women empowerment and teacher development as such. Welcome to Caprics Talk Show. So the very first segment that we wanted to start with you is like to understand your family background, like as your childhood, how was your experience? So we understand like coming from a complete education background, earlier in your childhood, did you thought about like, or did you dream what you wanted to become or like say what do you wanted to be in your career?
My family is traditionally a clothing business family.
Oh, nice.
And I always dreamt of being an exporter of garments to the rest of the country, rest of the world. And in fact, that was my beginning of my career also, where I used to manage a factory in Africa, in Kenya, and we used to manufacture garments, exporting it to most of the US companies, Kmart, Walmart, JCPenney, Sears, Woodlands.
Oh, nice.
And but it was destined. I was destined to be in the education sector. My father told me when I was into clothing retail. Initially, I was into garment manufacturing and exporting. Then I got into clothing retailing. Then over a period of time, my father told me that your temperament and your mind frame suits education sector. You'll do really well in it.
Okay. So
that's why
advice and then you follow.
Yeah, not exactly advice. It came to a situation where it was in the family situation was such that I better take up something else, and I started coming part-time for the education institutions which he had started.
Which year was it?
2007.
Okay.
Then I developed interest and it became my passionate for me.
Okay. So then should I call you like an accidental?
Absolutely, you can say so. You
accidental
can say
educator.
so.
Okay.
Yeah,
so now that become a passion for you.
In a very short time, I developed the passion for it. I found it very fulfilling.
Okay.
I felt like this was my calling.
Okay, nice. So then you would have been more like a quick learner to shift completely from one industry to another industry, or how was your transition? If you had to look back, like how did you transition there?
I wouldn't say it was a quick, very sudden transition. Even when I was in the clothing retail sector, I was involved at the board level for the educational institutions which my family and my father was managing. So the transition was quite easy. It was smooth.
Okay. So you had a lot of hand-holding to...
Oh, yes.
Okay. It's nice to...
Yes.
Yeah, and you're the second one child in the family.
Yeah.
And like mostly siblings are someone like where we look up to, or like say how's your siblings? Is it like a friendly rival always, or like they were your colleague, or like say they were your mentor, or how was your family background?
It's difficult to bracket the relationship, define it in one particular thing because this relationship takes its turns and it changes hats every time. Sometimes it's sounding board, we are sounding board for each other. Sometimes we are, friendly rivalry, as you say, and sometimes we are teachers to each other.
Okay.
And it's a very interesting, I would say, relationship.
One word cannot coin your...
You cannot coin it. Just you can say sibling, and that's about it. You cannot define it in what's the exact thing. But we've had a great relationship. Okay, nice. We do have a great relationship.
Okay, so putting back to your story, like mine was also very similar, where I hate education as such. Like, I was like not even below average. I was like say a kid which has like always red marks in my report card. So whereas on my other hand, my sibling, my sister, she is a gold medalist. So she did like 12th, she was a school topper. Then in college, she's a university topper. Now, like when she did master's, she's a university All India ranker second. So when we have a contrasting relationship, and now we are more like as you said, like bouncing ball to each other, like, where we have like tweaked on multiple bases. That's nice to have.
Yes.
I'll move to the second segment. So then as a second segment, like when you actually entered into the education, as a field. What are the key learnings that you initially learned that still you embrace today, sir? Like where at that moment you would have been much new to the field of education, like where people are guiding you or helping you. What are the 3 learnings that you would say that today's school leaders who are looking up to start the journey, or like they are entering into the family education business? So what are the 3 key learnings that you learned previously but still getting used to it daily on a day-to-day basis? What would be that?
One thing as a personal principle, I never impose anything on the principals
Okay.
of our institutions. I try to suggest to them,
Okay.
and I expect them to understand what I'm trying to tell or analyze whatever I've suggested, any service, any product, or any new activity. I just try to give it as a suggestion and I let them decide invariably.
Okay.
8 out of 10 times, I just suggest and I leave it. There's very hardly 1 or 2 times where I impose anything which the principal is not very sure or interested about.
Okay.
And I give that liberty to the principals.
Okay. Empowering them to take their own decisions for it. Okay.
Not only I tend to, or I prefer to ensure that I don't too much impose anything on them, I also ensure that rest of the board members or the other bureaucracy or the other departments of the state or government, anything, they are also not able to interfere or impose anything on them.
Okay.
So any such thing comes, then I take it on me to
That's a very leadership quality. Like
to fend away those people.
Okay. That's excellent to hear, sir. Yeah. Then, as you said, like you've been handling like 16 institutions, or like say part of the organization with the 16 institutions, managing colleges, schools, and everything. So there would be ample amount of responsibilities for you to manage. So how do you manage like or juggle between tasks, or like nowadays like people have the tendency saying that okay, I couldn't manage time, or like I have a limited time and not able to do my specific set of work. But you sitting in your chair, like how do you manage your work and responsibilities?
Out of these 16 institutions, only 4 to 5 is something which I am have indirect control of. And whatever it was, at some point of time, I was managing more than 11, 12 institutions. But at any point of time, as my personal principle, I've always believed anybody manages anywhere between 5 to 10 people. Nobody is managing more than 10 people. Or if they're managing, so I believe that they're too much burdened.
Okay.
So ultimately, whether someone or myself, I'm managing 1,000 people also, I'm still actually managing only 10 people directly. It's in turn those 10 people who are managing the rest
layers
of
of hierarchies.
That's about it.
Okay.
I mean, beyond that hierarchy of 10 people, I only mostly have a personal relationship or rapport, but not anything professionally directly involving with those people beyond those 10 people.
Okay. That's a nice way to, or like say, that's a perspective that I wanted to have, where you like work with closer circle of people and they manage. So how do you ensure they carry your vision down the line? So how do you ensure that the second layer of people or third layer of people understand your vision, and then that cascades down to the lower level of people in the organization?
Right from the person being interviewed or I meet for being recruited, I try to understand their mind frame, and I try to explain or make them understand what is my philosophy, our thought process, what is the thought or objective behind starting the institutions. I ensure that at least for the initial periods when someone has joined me, where he's joined at a level where he's reporting to me, I ensure I spend a lot of time with them, so that our wavelength, our frequency we match. Then after a period of time, it's just about mostly professionalism.
Understand. Okay.
Otherwise, and in fact, one other thing is only 75% of the time when I'm talking to someone who's reporting directly to me, it's about the professional day-to-day work and all those things. But rest of the 20-25% of the times we are talking about personal things like how is your health, what is happening in the family, and what is it. So I try to ensure that that line of black and white of you and me becomes more gray, and it's like less of me and you.
Okay, that's an excellent way to handle people as well. So nowadays, like because like we hear that like handling people has been a problem for many leaders as such, because like they have a way of dictating terms. But now I hear from your perspective where you can work only with like having like 25% of the conversation beyond professionalism, understanding their perspectives and everything. That's a very.
I also ensure that I keep checking with my immediate circle, these 10 people, how much are they knowing their immediate next circle, how much they know about the personal life of their immediate next circle.
Correct.
Do they know the family members' names, the children of the person reporting next to? Do they know what is their spouse, their immediate deputy's spouse, what are they doing, how are they doing? I check every now and then randomly. Whether they are doing that, are they going beyond just having a professional relationship, but also a personal touch with them?
Okay.
Because that is when it will ensure that they work as a team and they work as a family.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So the creating that culture is more important
Yes.
in the organization.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Adding a layer or like a point to that. So like, because like one thought process that I had is, however we set the culture, the structure of the organization, and then like as a leader, what are all the key metrics that you keep reviewing, or like say you ensure that the team is following the structure, so that where I'm coming from is there are like principals or like like leaders that I have interacted with, where they have, when it comes to a chairman or a discussion, okay, they are like much skeptical, and they wanted to hesitate to have that kind of a conversation because it might turn differently. Okay. But what I understand from you is like, say, when you have a proper structure in place, that becomes much easier. But in terms of like being a chairman and like of managing multiple institutions, what are the metrics that you would look at the people to have you convinced about a specific point, or like a new innovation? Like, what are the key things that you would look at people to bring it to you?
Invariably, 7 to 8 questions I ask or I discuss with my immediate suburb colleague they would be standardized.
Okay.
They invariably know, and over a period of time, that these 7-8 questions would come for sure. So they are prepared with it. Those 2-3 questions is something I always keep asking: what new are you trying to do?
Okay.
Or whatever targets I've given you, how are you going about it?
Okay.
Do you need any of my help or any suggestions, or do you have any query why I've set this target, why I want a certain thing to be done in a certain way? I ask them, do you have any queries, or do you have any suggestion in whatever I am doing my way? Okay. You have any suggestions? Can we do this way, sir? I give them that liberty, but I generally 7 to 8 questions are those standardized one, and they generally have it ready with them.
Okay. So that is the way I can resonate personally as well. When I was with EY, like I was working with one of my partner director. I know that like there will be 10 different items that I'll prepare and go. I know that like the similar like 5 to 6 items that you would be expecting me to answer, that I'll be ready. There are 2-3 items that I have not either worked or partially. Those are the questions that she will ask me. Like with the very first question would be, what is the status? Okay. Correct. I keep asking her, like, say, why you're not asking about the 5 or 6 ones? So that's where now I'm working with my team. The answer that I give is, I know that you are potentially capable to answer those 5 or 6 questions that you are already worked on. And my job is to ensure the remaining 3 is also done. So that's what I keep telling, and like I personally able to resonate with you what your answer is. Yeah. It's a nice answer. I think this segment is done, so we will quickly move to the next segment. So before we move on to the next session, so like it's a nice way of looking at as a leadership. I learned a lot from you, and I hope this insight specifically stick to a lot of people as well. So now how they manage their organization as such.
God's grace.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we'll move on to the next session where we take deep dive into the actual operations on schools and colleges and everything. Okay. So as you have been managing schools and colleges as such, where is your leadership gets tested most? Is it schools or colleges? Like, which is like, say, tricky to handle?
School is much trickier to handle.
Okay.
College,
I was expecting other way around.
No. School is always trickier to manage because college has a certain structure,
okay,
and divided into departments, different courses, and there's qualifications to ensure that there's a proper hierarchy and all those things. Schools, there's no such. There might be someone who's only 15 years experience and might be the principal. There might be someone who's 25 years old, experience, and she might be a teacher, maybe out of personal capability or maybe out of personal choice of that person. So it is always a little tricky. And unlike college, the schools, the attrition of staff is much higher.
Much higher, okay.
Yeah, and the people, this team, the teachers are also, average age would be much lesser in the school than compared to a college. So school comes with the much more challenges, more complex. But if you put it in a positive way, it is more interesting or engaging than being.
Yeah, that's
college.
That's a very nice way to look at it, because like every day you have a new challenge to handle it. Okay. So now one of the other scenario that you have seen is, in most schools now we see a decline in the, like when specifically like a primary and a middle school, there is always a decline in the male teachers. Yeah. It's been more becoming as a more female centric. Okay. According to you, or like based on your experiences, is it because of culture or salary or society? What do you look at, sir? Like specifically in that category of classes that we have?
I would say it's a combination of these. But the major reason I believe personally is generally how God has made man is what I believe is, in general, women are more into detailing.
Okay.
We men are more into macro view. Women can go into that micro view, so they can ensure that each and every child and each and every child's every move, what he or she is doing. They have that ability or that attitude. It is, I mean, that is how God has made us, I think.
Yeah.
But men, mostly, they are into the macro view. Okay, overall, how is the class done? What is the overall average or something? When overall everything is okay. But for women, they can get into each and every child. So majorly, that is one reason. Obviously, the finances does it, and the patience level women have
Much
with
better
children
lessons.
can be much better compared to men. Again, we cannot generalize it, but most of the times, this is how it is. And the acceptance among the parents or the children also is much easier with women as teachers.
Women as teachers, okay.
But we've seen one more thing is, as we go higher classes, then the acceptability or the, I mean, ratio of men and women as teachers narrows down to a great extent.
Okay, yeah, that's where I was about to come. Like,
Yes.
because lower the classes, it's like all female teachers, and I think one of the perspective that I can, they are like much detailed. They can go in depth and root of the problem. Adding a layer to that question, so like, what would be one advice or like say learning that you wanted the young female teachers to carry now when they go to the classrooms? What would be your or like say an insight that you want to have them when they enter the classrooms on a daily basis?
This is one thing which we have it as our tagline or the philosophy of the organization, I should say. Enjoy aspiring excellence. So
Very excellent.
the first step is the teachers, if they want the child to enjoy learning, then she or he should be enjoying it. And that she is enjoying should reflect, and it should be visible, evident to the student or the child in the way she dresses, in the way her face expressions, and in the way she comes to the class with that happiness and all those things. Because I've always believed learning happens the best when the child or when the student is happy. And for the child or the student to be happy, the teacher should be enjoying it and she should be happy, and it should reflect, it should be very evident to the child. Even the very small things that a teacher does, no? Getting into a little specific, I'll tell you also, even if the teacher has changed her earrings or she has done her eyebrow or something, the small children, even the KG children also, you'll see sometimes they're murmuring to, I mean, they're so it should reflect. The children should see, oh wow, ma'am is also, she's very happy, she's enjoying. It should be like a celebration when the teacher comes to a class, the way she approaches a class, and then it will automatically get into the students also. It will be contagious. The students also, so many times maybe we have seen that around a certain people, all of us are always smiling, happy, and we are laughing. And when you go around some people, it's always very serious and sometimes very complaining. So that contagiousness should start from a teacher. And that is how they can do the best.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So if I just summarize it or like, put a way that I can, the one of the perspectives that I want my audience to listen is like, say, be presentable and be happy such a way that like your environment or the culture is much built properly. That's one thing that I want. Nice ones. Move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Homeschooling as such has been like much booming or like say has become a talk mostly after pandemic. Now being running institutions and now we have an NIOS and everything. So what do you look at? So like say, is it going to be a challenge for the schools? Now homeschooling becoming another way of looking at learning things, or does it impact the collective way of learning, the cultural learning that we already have inculcated? So what is your view on this?
I believe whenever a child or a student comes to a school or college, any educational institution, more than 50% of his learning or the effect on the student is from the peer, is from the group. None of us are living on an island alone.
Exactly.
Each and everything that we are doing, we need someone or there is people around us also cannot operate or cannot manage without us also. So we are all interrelated, interconnected. So the most important thing that we need to teach or a student learns at a school or college is how to behave, how to be in a group or in a team. And that cannot happen in homeschooling. You're not living on an island and you're not living alone on an island. So it's always people. So that is what they have to learn at school. And that is why I believe with this new NEP which is coming up, coming in, they've understood this while framing this. And I'm glad that whatever minuscule that I've also contributed in this NEP being framed or being evolved, I've played my part, where I very specifically I mentioned that what sports, arts, music and all these performing or visual arts does, academics cannot do. You need that to develop that attitude, the willpower and all those things, thought process, thinking pattern of a student. Sports and all these things are very important. And because what these things teach, academics alone can't. Homeschooling will be mostly restricted or confined to academics, not for people managing. So, and especially that's why team sports or team activity of any such dance, drama on stage and all those things, you have to be in sync with each other or adjust yourself according to the other person. All those things in a single teaching will not happen. And that it will leave the education would be incomplete. In fact, homeschooling I would say is only academics. I wouldn't put it in education.
Very nice.
Academics is just a part of the education. You cannot say that is the. In fact, sometimes I tell teachers or someone that look at, not in the exact analogy, but you can sort of look at academics as the meal or food that you go and have during a wedding or something like that. But that might be an excuse for it, for going to a wedding or something like that. But the most important thing is you teach the child how to behave in a group. You groom that person's willpower, the thinking pattern and all those things. And that is what, school or education institution is, how to behave and all those things. Maybe just like in a wedding, blessing the couple or the family is the most important thing. And then meeting other people is the second most important thing. The food is only the third important part. So maybe someone can say it's equally important, but I believe these two are more important. It's okay if parents think that is the most important. Let's say to ensure that we manage both the things, the parents also and what we want to teach. Let's say all the three are equal. But you cannot leave out the other two and just say academics. No, then you've not complete education. No.
So that's a very good example for everyone to understand. So one of the example that I also think, or like an experience that we had is, so we more handle into preschool segment. And during pandemic, there were kids who were born like 1.5 2 years. They were all at home. And 2021, when we started the schools, they coming to the schools, like they've been like for 2.5 years before they where they realize what it is. A 3-year-old kid or like 3.5-year-old kid, like more like a Corona batch, a common thing. They were not able to understand. They had to go to a classroom. They had to sit with peers. There would be people sharing the toys. There would be people sitting next to you, but will have the same features and facilities that is it. Being a single kid at home, they were enjoying or cherishing all the facilities. But when you have to take a toy and it has to be shared, they were not able to accept it. They were throwing a lot of tantrums and everything. And teachers were like very struggling towards. Like at that point in time, it was like more training the teachers rather than like say how to handle the situation, how it has to be done. So that was our experience. Because now I think it's settled up. Like now back to the normalcy is what we feel that they are turned, and it took almost like 3-4 months for those kids to understand it too and become, or like say develop a social behavior, I'd call. That's where we have also seen
the COVID period, it only aggravated this. The starting was already we are getting into more nucleus families.
Correct.
And then mostly lot of families are single child family. So at least if someone has another sibling, then they understand a little of this group dynamics and all those things. That's why it is all the more, so much more important that right from a very young age, right from the kindergarten itself, we get the children to do joint assignments or group assignments, group activities, and sports also. You have some group, team games rather than a single game. Rather than a 100-meter run alone, you have some team game, some group game to ensure that they understand that me alone doing well is not sufficient.
Group participation.
We have to ensure that the group wins. And that's why I furthermore believe that homeschooling is not complete education.
That's a nice way.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about the homeschooling and social behavior and everything. We understand, like say, when we read through your college's profile and your profile and everything. So as an organization, as an institution, you have been like donating and like doing much of welfare for the society, focusing more on women empowerment. And I think one of the donations that you did for the Cancer Institute, all those things like it gives a lot of like say happiness internally. That is first thing that I would take. Second thing is it gives or shows the organization's social responsibility. Okay. Being in that view, like, what do you feel now, whether the younger generation has that kind of a kindness or social responsibility these days? Do you see, was it good, or like say, is it increasing or decreasing in your view? So what is your experience on?
Heart of heart, they are at a younger age. They are still moldable. You can inculcate a lot of things into them. So one thing is, today's generation is much more into one kind of attitude where people follow your examples than listen to your advice. So when we wanted to ensure that our students, our children are into social service, then we had to lead as an example. And one very important thing is the next generation. If you see in the other Western countries or other cultures, the younger generation taking care of the elder is much lesser. But I believe one big difference between a human being and animals is, even in animals the mother takes care of the child, but it's only among the humans that the younger generation or the next generation takes care of the older generation also. So if we want our younger generation or the newer generation to take care of the older generation when they need them, is something first we have to start with, is teach them to do selfless, service, where they will not get anything in return. If we have taught the student to do something to someone where they might not get anything in return, for someone they don't know, then doing it for someone they know or they've got already something from someone will be much easier, and it will come much more naturally. So you should see, when we take these children to any of these old age homes or these leprosy homes, we think that these younger generation does not have that kindness. You should see those children, they are weeping, they are sobbing. Oh my God, look at this. So
more
empathetic. You inculcate that culture in them right from that young age, and so it will eventually, when they're younger, their older generation, their parents, their grandparents are in the need of their help, it will come to them much more naturally, because they've seen somewhere, they've gone to an old age home and they can see that some old age person, there's no younger generation to take care of them, how they miss. So then they will understand, then at some point of time, if I don't take care of my parents or grandparents, this is what will. So at a very young age, you sow it in them. Before that clay becomes too hard, you put it into them, then it's okay.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, and that's a very important part of our culture compared to the other Western cultures. So we should do this.
Okay. So that's a way of, like, a perspective that I also wanted to have, sir. One, where we have seen is, like, say, the same thought process that you were mentioning, rather than just advising. So the building the social relationship or the culture has been one key thing, and one of the key being, I have a teenager at home, like, he just turned 13, and as you said, like, molding him is, like, say, little tough. But what I understood discussing with him on a daily basis and everything, rather than advising him, I had to live by an example.
Absolutely.
Like, say, for example, I wanted him to just have healthy foods, or like, say, like, at least have some, like, helping hands on other ways to do it and everything. Only when I do, he is able to quickly learn that. Whichever I do, he's able to learn quickly do that. Which I'm like, I said, like, I wanted you to read books, or like in terms of, like, not more academics, just something that you wish. Okay, he's not able to take that because, like, I and Meena doesn't have the habit of reading books as such. That's one example where I see that, okay, you live the example, and I said, like, it's our wish. Like, I am not interested in reading books, but I learn articles, I do blogs and everything. That's a way of different learning. Yeah. So I told him, like, see, you can't keep us as an example for this one, because, like, our way of learning is different and your way of learning is different. So I keep telling them, and like, you resonated that same point. Then I'll quickly move on to the next specific question that I actually wanted to discuss with you, was women empowerment and rural development. So being from Vidhya Sagar Education, like, majority of your activities or institutions focuses more on women empowerment and bringing new age learning to women's foundation. So what was the key thing that you have specifically focused more on women empowerment and education? What are the takeaways that you have taken, or like, say, why, or like, I would say, I'll maybe reframe it. What was the most insightful thing that you wanted to focus more on women education first?
The most important thing that we've tried to do around women's education is to make our students choice makers.
Nice.
And prepare them to be to take a choice, decision making. Most important is to teach decision making to our students. This is more, I would say, can be better in women. I wouldn't exactly use the word lacking in women, but I would say say this has a lot of scope of improvement on how to do decision making in women in our country, and more so in the rural setup, because most of the time they are consequence receivers. Someone else in the family decides for them, okay, you will study this, okay, you will go to this institution, okay, this is the family you will get married in, okay, this is the career you will choose. They are mostly consequence receivers, or someone else take the decision for them. We wanted our girls to be ready for decision making, prepared. They should have had this practice of decision making, and then when the situation comes to take a decision, they can be an informed decision maker, where the rest of the family feels this is what is this is what it is, this is what they at least know. Okay, these are the choices, this is what it is. Okay, this was my second preference, and this was my third preference, this is my fourth preference. But in terms of the family happiness or the culture of the family, or to take the family along, maybe I'll not be able to take the first priority or first preference of those choices. Maybe okay, second priority being a woman, okay, let me take along the family. I'll take the second preference. But they should be informed decision makers, and they should know, they should have had this habit or practice of doing a decision making. How to take that decision, what all has to be considered, what is the consequences of what is my strength, what is my family's culture, what is the future of what options. So they should know how to do all these things and be ready and be a practiced decision maker.
Okay, that's very, or like I'd say, that's a goal to me on like how you make your college students or like say school students to bring it up. So one of the key things that I observed is like say, I come from a complete corporate background as well, where I have seen people or like say women as such, okay, are like the decision makers, and mostly when it comes to urban cities or like cities, I have seen this kind of a culture. What is your view on like how the rural cities or like a rural market is doing in terms of women empowerment, or like are they in par with what we are doing in urban, or like what is there lagging and what we need to as an educator to look at in building the rural empowerment as well, or rural women empowerment?
I would say we should work on reducing the gap between the rural and the urban. There's a gap. Definitely. And we should be working on it. And that was the whole objective of starting these women's education. Because one thing is, so many of our leaders, our forefathers have so many times said that if you can take care of the women in the family, and if you could take care of the education and the literacy level of the women in the family, one woman in the family has been educated, the rest of the generations of that family is, you are sure, is educated. See, most of the times today in today's world, both the parents are lot of people, they are working, but majority of the times the women is at home, so they are more the women are more accessible to the children. And if the women are educated and they are well informed, they are aware of what are those things, then it is very better for the family. So we have to ensure that the women get the sufficient support. And so many times we don't realize that even if it's a non-working woman, the influence that a non-working woman also has on a working husband is so great. Maybe so many of us don't tell it out out of that social concern, but the influence that the women have and their decision making, their foresight is sometimes amazing. You might think, okay, I am into 25 years into education and I've seen the world, this, that, but not sometimes, so often what a woman can foresee, even though she being a homemaker, is phenomenal. And the insight that you can get from her is amazing. And if you thank God, if you educated your woman at home or in the family is educated and they know a little bit of the world, amazing partner.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So like I come from a family where I have a sister, and like one of the sisters is here. Okay. So they are like my go-to people. Okay, where I take or like say bounce on them. On the other hand, like may I have my wife, like who's my partner in Caprics as well, where we run businesses, and my mother. I take a lot of advices from these two people. Some of the decisions that I couldn't make or like I couldn't decide upon, or I'm confused. As you said, they are like their insight is completely different. Absolutely. Their decision way is like say okay, like I might be thinking it's something it is like more complex or like it is something, they will be handling it like this.
Yes.
Yeah, I will be like certain things I say okay, I'll leave it to Veena, like okay, I'm not comfortable to do it.
What they can foresee, you're not able to. You see it like okay, everything, and they are able to foresee. See this person, this thing, this thing. Be a little careful, and you realize, oh, okay, I never thought about this. I could never see it. What they can sometimes foresee is so. If you have them in your good stead, they're having them as your sounding board, or every now and then discussing with them.
Excellent. Hopefully, all the alumni, lakhs and lakhs of women alumni from Vidhya Sagar School and colleges like are being able to like well-informed decision makers
Yes,
personally
absolutely.
and in
Absolutely.
professionally as well.
Absolutely.
That's a way that we have to build these societies.
Absolutely.
That's end of this session. We'll quickly move to the next session. The next segment that we wanted to take up is more on school operations and academics and everything. So when it comes to schools as such, there are any like many curriculum providers like say Caprics or like book publishers or something where they can decide what the academics has to be followed, and like there can be like curriculum providers like us will provide a structured content for the teachers and everything. So what are the three things as school management looks at curriculum provider or like someone, what you would expect from them or what has to be there in the academics so that you choose to implement in your schools?
I would say it'd be a combination of 3 or 4 things, but among them, the most important would be what is your geography? What is the expectation or the literacy level of the people around the geography that you, or what is your catchment area of of your students or parents? And then the other thing would be what is the philosophy of your organization? Of your management, what was the thought process, what was the objective behind starting that institution? That would be the second thing that would play a role. And then maybe over a period of time, you will understand what is the third or fourth factor. But these two are the
key things that
you would look at. And also sometimes you have to look at the capability or the literacy level or the competence level of the teachers you are able to get in that surrounding. Then maybe over a period of time, if you've got teachers only of some certain level, then over a period of time you train them and make them more competent. Then you can upgrade your curriculum or something like that. But mostly it's the first two things. Then the third thing, fourth thing would
fall in place
slowly, and or you have to work towards to ensuring that it falls in place.
Okay. Understand. So as we talked about teachers as such, like say what background they come from and what the surroundings makes a lot of difference with the students as well, because like students coming from a different background and teachers coming from a different background, there will be always a misalignment. That's where like every school we tell them like look at your locality, hire people or like bring people with them, because like say there are schools they wanted to have teachers from various cities or something. One way of looking at is bringing people or expertise, but there should be always a local strength every time is what I personally tell them on that angle specifically. What is your view on how teacher appraisals happen in schools? How it is structured these days? Because like what I've seen or like experience or like say when we interact with school teachers or everything, there is always a financial factor lies on how the school can make and like how they can compensate the teachers and everything. In your view, how it should be well structured so that it will be a win-win situation for teachers and the management or like school segment? How do you would look at it, sir?
So much of what a management can do for the teachers depends on what they are able to get from the parent is what it is. One thing is, but also so many times, as I just told you, is we have to create that competence among the teachers or the teaching community, and sensitize also the parents or students that we want to take you to the next level or something like that. So you please cooperate. You have to explain to them, convince them. You have to prove to them that you are sincere towards it. And one thing of it is, and as far as teaching community appraisal goes, it's very complex in schools. In colleges, it's much easier because there is a semester every time coming up. There's within second or third year, there's placements coming. So you know which professor is doing well, not doing well. And getting the feedback from the students of a college also is much easier.
Easier to understand.
And the big advantage in a college is maybe the decision maker and the consumer is the same person most often. But in the school, it's multiple people. The decision maker is someone else. The consumer is
completely
someone
a younger generation.
And in fact, it's confusing for you to decide who's the actual consumer. Is it the child or the parent? And that's very difficult. The matrix to decide the yardstick to decide the
teacher's
appraisal is very complex. And it's very challenging. But again, I would say that is what makes school education so much more
challenging,
engaging, or more interesting. Is what it is. Yes.
Yeah. So that's all. Like we have been seeing, it's always based on exam results, but tentatively it comes only when it is board. But in middle school or like pre-primary, we can't measure.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. So one thing, CBSE has understood this well, and what they've done is just before the board exams, they've created a system where the schools of one particular locality just just before the board exams, they have pre-boards. The answer sheets of one school is evaluated by the teachers of the other school.
Okay.
And then they have some interchanging and all those things. So they've tried to help by doing this. And unlike in a college where mostly the papers evaluated are all evaluated outside the college, or there is some external organization
Factor
or
always
external
coming
factor
in.
or some external regulation or systems which is put in. Schools is a little difficult. So sometimes what schools which have a more sections are able to do is what section one teacher is teaching, the other teacher who's teaching the other section evaluates the paper of this teacher. So this kind of things is possible more in the bigger schools where they are bigger strength and more sections. Schools with the smaller strength or lesser sections, they find it a little difficult. But then there's a lot of sincerity or a lot of effort which has to be there from the side of the principals to ensure that that is done well.
Okay.
Otherwise, difficult to evaluate the teachers in a school. Yes.
Got it. Okay. On adding a question on top of your responses, where you said like if it is a larger school and like they have a much more manpower or like say I would say teachers in place to assess or like say help other teachers and do it. We have always seen or like say there is always sharing around it when it is a standalone school. Okay, and they are standalone school.
Yeah.
Okay, an individual school, they are like budding, and then we have seen they're struggling, and there are like a lot of challenges to expand more. Okay, there are corporate schools coming in place. They take the nearby admissions and everything, and they have always a challenge. Like I've seen management people who are like willing to do new things, but they are put in under a parental pressure that this is what I wanted my parents to do. So as you said, we don't know whether it's a consumer as the child or the parent. So for such kind of a school and the leaders, like what would be your 3 advices that you tell them, okay, do these 3 things so that everything will fall in place. Like what would be that so that they don't struggle on a day-to-day basis?
See, one philosophy of the management or the school is they should be clear whether if they have some philosophy or their thought process, something is there that has to be explained to the parent before admission itself, that this is our philosophy, this is our objectives, and we will go according to this only. Only if you think you are okay with this, do we want you to enroll your child here.
Okay.
If that is what is the approach a management is taking, then that's one thing. Or the other way, if a management is thinking, okay, let me go, I'm going to this geography, then let me understand what is the expectation of these parents here. Okay. And I'm willing to slightly change my thought process or my processes or my systems, my objectives a little. I'm okay with it. Then that is one way of doing this thing. But if you are very sure this is what you are going to do, then explain to the parent. And if you have the financial backing, then hold on to your philosophy until you get the sizable number of people who are able to accept or get aligned with your philosophy. It can sometimes be a little difficult, and I faced one such situation where. But it's okay. But see, one thing is schools. A lot of people, to the outside people, it looks like school is a very profitable and very lucrative thing, and management sometimes think, okay, I have a property there or I have a location there, that is not the way you can look at it. Maybe you have to look at it as okay, this is one locality or one geography where there isn't many education institutions. If I come up there, then a lot of people will be benefited, and also it will be easy for me to become viable or stand by myself as a self-financed institution. That is one way of doing. But otherwise, if you're a really huge one, you can do up something like 200, 300 acres, and then you bring the whole ecosystem yourself, then that's a different thing.
Ball game.
Otherwise, a lot of schools or colleges who are failing today is because they come up with an institution in a place where, because they have a land, something there, they come up with it. I have land there, I'll come up with it. You should be thinking like, this is a geography which needs an institution. Then I'll identify a land there, and then I'll start with it. That is how it should be worked. And it's also about your willingness to change your thought process, your philosophy according to what is required by the parents, or you're very sure, no, this is my philosophy, I'll be with this. And I'm not too concerned or not too much in a rush for me to get the sizable number. I'll wait. I have that capability.
Okay. That's good. Okay.